habits lead to late nights and then alone conversation with a stranger that I barely know, swearing this'll be the last, but it probably won't. I got nothing left to lose or use, or do my bad habits lead to wide eyes stare into space, and I know I lose control of the things that I say. Yeah, I was looking for a way out, now I can't escape. Nothing happens after 2. It's true, my bad habits lead to you. My bad habits lead to you. Hey, how you doing? Justin here. Today we are checking out Bad Habits by Ed Sheeran. What a tune this one is. It works great on guitar. I have no idea whether Ed Sheeran wrote it on guitar or not. It sounds like a synthesizer on the original recording, but the way it kind of fits so nicely under the fingers, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Ed Sheeran had actually come up with the main riff part on a guitar. Really don't know. Maybe Ed Sheeran will let us know in the comments. It's only got 3 chords all of the way through. It's B minor for 1 bar, D or D major 7th for 1 bar, and then G for 2 bars. Now, I'm going to show you how to be able to copy the keyboard riff using a B minor bar chord, a bar chordy kind of version of a D major 7 and an open G chord, but you can also play it using easy open chords and 1 power chord, which also sounds really cool. So if you're pretty new to guitar, maybe you're encountering your F chord for the first time, this is a tune that you can check out. It's lots of fun to play it that way. I'm going to start off with that just so you get the arrangement right. Then we're going to gradually make it more and more complicated, and I'll show you in detail how to do the picking as well, this picked finger style kind of effect where you're picking out a lot of notes individually. It does make it pretty difficult to sing over that. If you're going to do the full keyboard emulation on the guitar, singing over the top of it is possible, I think. I don't feel like I've quite nailed it yet, but the good news is that so long as you play it accurately when it's exposed and by itself, and then you do roughly the right thing while you're singing it as well, then you'll probably get away with it. So let's start off with the super simple version with a capo at the 2nd fret. So using open chords is a really nice introduction to the song. We got there the capo at the 2nd fret. We'd start with an A minor chord for 1 bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it's a C chord, but really what we want to get it sounding a bit more like the original recording is to lift off the 1st finger. We end up with a C major 7th chord. So A minor, 2, 3, 4, C major 7, 2, 3, 4 to an F major 7 or a regular F chord. So you could use regular F like this, you could use an F power chord. Sounds really interesting with the open strings there, so if you want to get a bit creative with it, you can experiment with that one. You can also experiment with the 2nd finger down. It's an F major 7 sharp 11 technically, this one, or you could play just a regular F major 7, open thinner string, don't play the thickest 2 strings. You could try using an F major 9. So it's just 1st finger in the 1st fret of the 2nd string, 3rd finger in the 3rd fret of the 4th string, 3 frets above the capo, of course. So you could use those ones if you like, and it is that chord progression all of the way through. So every time you come around, you know I can't say no. 2, 3, 4. Every time the sun goes down, C major 7 to F or F major 7. A minor the paradise, C major 7 to F major 7 or the major 9. Tonight had some major 7 to F. And it's even the same for the chorus. And habits lead to A minor, end in the C major 7. Conversations with F major 7 that I barely know. Swearing this'll be the A minor, but it's probably a C major 7. Nothing left to F major 7. It's the same, and you could strum it any way you like. I'm playing around with the F there because you could choose lots of different approaches to that. So it's that same chord progression right the way through the whole tune, but if you're going to play the song on your own, you need to think about making the choruses and the verses different. Otherwise, it's just going to get real boring. So even if you're going for the super simple approach, think about trying to make the verses sparser, like with less strums, less strumming going on at all, and then the choruses with much more strumming. If you do know your power chords, the switch from open chords in the verses to power chords in the choruses also works real well. Even if you're going for the capoed version, you're not going for the full synth line, do think about that dynamic shift. It'll make a huge difference. You might try something like, every time you come around, you know I can't say no. And every time the sun goes down, I let you take control. I can feel the paradise before my world implodes. And tonight had something wonderful. My bad habits lead to late nights and alone. Conversation with a stranger I barely know. Swearing this'll be the last, but it probably won't. I got nothing left to lose or do, or if you know how to do the offbeats and the line, I stare into space, and I know I lose control of the things that I say. I was looking for a way out, now I can't escape. Nothing happens after true, it's true. Bad habits lead to you. So obviously I moved into a slightly different sort of strumming pattern that you might not be familiar with, but I'm going to show that to you now. You can get the idea though that having that dynamic shift there between the verse, maybe picking it up just a little bit and then getting into the chorus with a very different, either a strumming pattern with a backbeat hit. This works great on acoustic guitar as well. Obviously I'm using electric guitar and I've added a little bit of chorus and a bit of delay to kind of make it sound a little bit synthy, but it works great on acoustic guitar as well. So do experiment with that. Let me take you through this strumming part, because no matter what version you want to do, having that offbeat strumming thing works real great. So to get the offbeat thing, what we're doing is we're putting our hand on the strings on the beat and then strumming on the and. So 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So the hand is literally muting all of the strings, pressing down 1, and then doing a down hit 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2. I'm moving my hand a little bit more than I would normally, just so you can make sure you can see the palm is hitting, but normally it would look like... See, it kind of looks like it's bouncing a bit. If I slow it down, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. And this works the same if you're doing power chords or open chords or whatever. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And have a sleep till late nights and alone. Conversation with a stranger that I barely know. Swearing this'll be the last, but it probably won't. I got nothing left to lose or use or do. My bad habits lead to wide-eyed. You get the idea here. It's a really fun one. Doesn't feel too bad to sing that, even though the chorus is quite wordy. Once you get that rhythm automated. And of course remember that there's no chance of you singing that kind of riff with even this rhythm if it's not automated. You can see I'm able to talk to you about the rhythm and how to do it while the rhythm is still going. That's where you want to get it to. You want to practice it over and over again until you don't really even have to think about that rhythm. It's not a hard one to do, and I definitely recommend you just working on the rhythm on its own, on one chord first of all, get it feeling together, then start moving it around between the different chords before you even think about starting to sing over the top. But like I said, this one works great whether you're going to do the full synth version, just the beginner version, or any sort of strumming. Having that kind of groove in the choruses and then a simple strumming or a picked out pattern in the verses will sound really cool. Let's have a look now at playing the proper synth line if you want to have a go at that one. So this one is using a B minor chord. So obviously the capo is off now, so it's still just an A minor chord if the capo was our finger. That's the whole point of a capo, right? So that's a B minor chord, making sure that the tip of the first finger there is muting the thicker string. That's a mistake I quite commonly see. So that's a B minor. Then we go to our D major 7. Again, it's just like we had our C major 7 before with the capo at the 2nd fret. So you probably want to just keep your first finger where it was actually there for the D major 7. 3rd finger staying down as well. Little fingers just moving over to the 3 frets above the capo, which would be 3 frets above the capo. What am I talking about? There's no capo anymore. Sorry, it'll be the 5th fret. Keep getting confusing myself now. So that's a C major 7. That's 5th fret, 4th fret. Thinnest 3 strings are barred by the 1st finger, 2nd fret. And then we're going to a G. Now, this is an interesting kind of a G that we want here. It's just using 1 finger. This is the 2nd finger playing the 3rd fret of the thicker string. It's muting the 5th string. 3 strings are open, and then it's also muting the underneath of that 2nd finger there is just muting the thinner string as well. Now, that's what you don't want is this. You don't want to hear that thinner string, the note E. It wouldn't matter really what finger was going to mute it. But you probably want that, because you're going to see we're going to use the 1st finger to play this note, this C sharp, which gives us our G sharp 11. G with a sharpened 11th, that is, not a G sharp chord, a G chord, adding a sharp 11 there. Let's pop that into context now with the picking, and then we'll do some detail on the picking. So B minor, D major 7, G. Now, one thing I should point out as well is rhythmically the chords are changing half a beat earlier. So you got this 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So we're playing this note here from the major 7th chord, the D major 7. This note is coming on the and after 4, so half a beat earlier. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and the G, this open B of the G chord is also coming early. And 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and even that. This note here from the B minor is coming from the G, it's coming on the and after 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So make sure you lead with that, then you're putting your bar down. So when it's going from the G, then you're playing actually the open 5th string, then 2nd finger goes down, then you're forming that B minor. So that picking pattern with a little more detail now, because that is going to be the tricky bit. So we're playing the 5th string with a down pick. Then we're playing the 2nd string and the 3rd string with an up pick. And then the 4th string with a down pick. Down, up, up, down, up, up. So then we're playing the 2nd string and the thinner string with up picks. Down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up on the 2nd string. Okay, this is a little bit of a weird pattern, but it's the only way that it really feels good for me to work it out. If you want to use a different picking pattern, by all means do it. I nearly always pick with a down pick on the beat and an up pick on the ands. That whenever I'm doing this kind of picking out individual notes of a chord, that's usually how it works. For this particular pattern, that felt really, really awkward. And I experimented a bit, and I feel like this is the easiest one. So give it a go, see if it feels great for you. And if it doesn't, then see if you can find what does. Down, up, up, down, up, up, down on the bass note again, then up on the 2nd string, which is where we're changing chords to the D major 7. Same pattern again. Down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up. Now it's exactly the same again, but now the bass note has moved over to the thickest string. For both those previous chords, the bass note was on the 5th string. So just again on that B minor, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, down, up, up, down, A string, it's just a little climb up to the B minor, and that's where your third finger has to go early to the B minor. Times even slower. Another approach that you might like to try is using some palm mute, especially if you're going to go for the super effective guitar thing. It can make it sound, again, pretty cool. Just, again, putting the palm of the hand there right on the bridge just to get it, not too heavy a palm mute, but a bit. So a picking pattern like this is going to take some practice, and you want to make sure you do it real slow. That is the key thing here. Now remember, I got a full tab there over on the website, so you might want to click the link in the description and go and check out Justin Guitar tabs, where I got tabs for all of the songs that I got lessons on. You might find that helpful with a tune like this to be able to visually scan it along as you go along. I often find that with these kind of more complex patterns that it can help me have a visual aid there rather than just trying to do it from memory. The key thing when you're trying to do it is doing it slowly enough to build up the muscle memory, to make sure that your hand knows what it's going to do. If you make a mistake, stop and go, no, that's not the right one. Tell yourself off and go back and do it even slower until you get it right. If you practice it with a mistake, it's going to be a real difficult thing to untangle later and go to get it right. So really aim to practice perfectly, because practice makes permanent, not perfect, right? Big deal. So real slow, careful practice on that before you have a go. And I think I mentioned, even though I've practiced this quite a bit, I still really struggle to sing the verses over that chord progression. I mean, it's difficult enough for me to sing it anyway because it's super high, requires falsetto. So as soon as if I concentrate on the guitar thing, I get my vocal goes a bit out of tune. But what I seem to be feeling at the moment is that if I get some of the notes not quite right in the picking pattern, so long as I keep it in time, then it doesn't seem to sound too bad. So that might be something to stay aware of, is that as long as you stay in time, if you hit a different string or the pattern goes slightly wonky, it's not really going to make a big difference to the listener if things like that change. As long as your time stays solid. If you let your time get wobbly, you'll definitely notice it. So try and keep your time solid. Don't be so fussy about the picking. And if you really struggle, I would go for picking the notes out like the riff for maybe an intro. And then when it comes to the verses where you're trying to sing, is just doing a simpler, like single strums and letting it ring out and singing over the top. And then taking it for the choruses into the power chords, which is what we're going to look at next. So for the chorus using power chords, you got B, D, to G for 2 bars. That's it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But bad habits lead to late nights and alone conversations with a stranger that I barely know. Swearing this will be the last, but it probably won't. I got nothing left to lose or use, or do my bad habits lead to wide eyes staring into space? And I know I lose control of the things that I say, and I was looking for a way out, now I can't escape. Nothing happens after 2, it's true, my bad habits lead to you. I know know some of you are going to ask about the tone, so I thought I'd explain what's going on there. However, I just noticed when I was doing that last little segment on the power chords thing that actually the tone control on my guitar was rolled back a bit, which is a little bit annoying because it made it sound a little bit flatter, like duller. I might try and tweak it later on so you won't notice it so much when you watch the video back, but probably the intro, which I haven't filmed yet, and that last part will sound a little bit crunchier and a little bit cooler because of the... I'm not using a proper amp here. I'm using my Kemper and these tiny little Genelec speakers, and it's quite quiet as well in here. I try not to have it too loud, and so sometimes those tonal things, if I'm not really paying attention, I might miss them, and that's the case here. So some of the tones there for that lessony part might not be as cool as what I was hoping, but I'm using the Kemper Profiler. It's a Michael Britt profile, the Lux. It's basically a Fender Deluxe. It's Lux 2 and it's from the Vintage Pack. It's one of my favorite profiles. I use it all the time. And I've got on there some chorus, and I've also got some delay on, just a very short amount of delay, just to kind of fatten it up a little bit. And that's and some reverb. And that's really the only sounds that I'm using for this particular one. If you want more details of that, I'll put the exact settings up on the website. I really hope you have a lot of fun experimenting with this tune. I would encourage you to try some new things out. Like learning the original recording and the exact riff is a fun thing. It's a cool thing to do. Some good skills to be learned in that, to do with pick control and picking the individual strings out, staying in time, the offbeat power chords thing. There's plenty of cool stuff to get stuck into. But I'd really encourage you to just try out some different stuff, different ways of playing the chords, different picking approaches, different strumming approaches. What can you do to the song to make it your own? Try it fingerstyle, try a death metal version, I don't know. Just try some stuff, you know. There's plenty more Ed Sheeran songs over on the website to check out if you're a fan. And remember that you can leave requests on the request board at justinguitar.com/songs. And I do try and nail down as many of those top requested songs as I can. You'll see at least one a month usually. So I'll see you for plenty more very soon. You take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.